AMD has just secured its path to becoming a trillion-dollar company. With its new agreement with Meta, AMD will deploy 6 gigawatts of GPUs, and it's estimated that every single gigawatt will generate around $20 billion in revenue. But some people are asking an important question. Is giving up 10% of the company too much? And this becomes even more controversial when you realize that AMD has already signed a nearly identical agreement with OpenAI. So let's break it down. First, here's why this puts AMD on a clear path toward a trillion-dollar valuation. Starting in the second half of 2026, AMD will begin deploying the first gigawatt out of the 6 planned for Meta and another 6 gigawatts for OpenAI. These contracts last 5 years. That means, on average, more than 2 gigawatts will be deployed every single year. And that translates into roughly $40 billion in annual revenue from just these two customers alone. To put that into perspective, AMD generated less than $35 billion in total revenue in all of 2025. These two contracts alone could surpass AMD's entire current business. And what's even more important is that Meta and OpenAI are not the only customers. They are simply the most important ones. There will be many more. Now, the reason why this deal is actually extremely smart for AMD is because it deeply ties the company to two of the most important AI companies in the world. AMD is not just selling GPUs, it is building fully optimized hardware, software, and entire system designed specifically for the most demanding AI workloads on Earth. By building GPUs, improving its ROCm software, and deploying infrastructure at massive scale for companies like Meta and OpenAI, AMD is achieving something incredibly valuable. It is proving that it can operate at the absolute highest level. Because once you can build infrastructure capable of serving Meta, you can serve anyone. This dramatically increases AMD's credibility and attractiveness to every other major AI company. These partnerships also go far beyond just one generation of GPUs. They will start with the MI450 series, but the agreements include future generation of GPUs designed in close collaboration with Meta and OpenAI. And this is critical, because when companies co-design hardware together over multiple years and multiple generations, the relationship becomes extremely deep. The systems, the software, and the infrastructure become tightly integrated. And this creates a powerful flywheel. By the time this contract ends, Meta and OpenAI will be heavily dependent on AMD's ecosystem. Working away will mean losing years of optimization, integration, and co-development, which makes future contracts not just likely, but highly probable. And ideally, future agreements won't require AMD to give up additional equity. Another key point, as Lisa Su herself emphasized, is that there are only a handful of companies in the world that can afford to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on infrastructure. AMD has now secured deep partnership with two of them. That's a massive strategic win, because AMD's success becomes directly aligned with Meta's and OpenAI's success. If Meta and OpenAI win, they generate more cash, and if they generate more cash, they buy more AMD GPUs. There is also another massively underappreciated advantage. Very few companies on Earth can deploy multi-gigawatt GPUs infrastructure. Right now, Nvidia is the only clear leader in this capability, but AMD is about to join that club. And this will become an enormous competitive advantage as global demand for compute capacity continues to explode. Many startups claim they can design better or more efficient AI chips, at least for inference. But designing a chip is one thing. Deploying gigawatts of infrastructure is something entirely different. It requires scale, capital, logistics, software, and operational expertise. And this creates a huge barrier to entry. There is also a powerful financial incentive for Meta and OpenAI themselves. If AMD becomes a multi-trillion-dollar company, owning 10% could be worth hundreds of billions of dollars. So Meta and OpenAI are now financially incentivized to help AMD succeed. This aligns everyone's interests. So yes, AMD is giving up to 20% of the company across these two agreements, but those shares can only be fully exercised if AMD reaches a stock price of $600 by 2030. That would imply roughly a $1 trillion market cap, about 3 times higher than today. In other words, AMD only gives up that equity if shareholders have already won massively. And that's the key point. These deals massively increase the probability that AMD becomes one of the dominant infrastructure providers of the AI era, which could transform the company entirely. And if that happens, today's valuation may look very small in hindsight.